I don't remember the first night the mire called to me. I only remember the first night I finally answered. The luminous mire had always been there, just beyond the last row of dying pines, beyond the skeletal fence that once belonged to my grandfather, and beyond the boundary that every adult in Gloomhaven insisted we never cross. We grew up hearing the same warnings. The swamp glows because the dead never learn to rest. The whispers you hear are not meant for the living. If you step into the mire, it will show you a future you can't escape. I believed none of it. People in small towns cling to superstitions the way drowning men cling to driftwood. I wasn't interested in driftwood. I wanted truth, or at least something more solid than the quiet dread that lived inside me every day of my life. My mother used to say that the mire chooses people. I hope she was wrong, because for the last 2 weeks, I'd been hearing faint whispers each night just before sleep dragged me under. They snuck through the window screen, floated above my bed, and curled beneath my pillow like cold breath. I could never make out the words, but I felt them soft, coaxing, patient. The feeling reminded me of a hand resting lightly on the back of my neck. Tonight, the whisper wasn't faint. It was a voice, clear, urgent, right behind my ear. Come. I jolted upright in my dark room, my shirt damp with sweat. Moonlight seeped in from the window, pale and diluted. My eyes scanned the room automatically, but I already knew I would find nothing there. The voice had come from outside. My pulse hammered. I swung my legs out of bed, unsure if I was moving because I chose to or because something else guided me. My feet touched the wooden floorboards. Cold. Too cold. As if I'd stepped onto ice instead of wood. The house was silent except for the groaning of old timber. But underneath that, woven like a thread through stillness, was the faintest glow pressing against the window, blue, shifting, alive. The mire was calling again. This time, I didn't fight it. I slipped on my shoes, tucked my flashlight into my pocket, and walked to my door as if the motion belonged to someone else. The air felt wrong the moment I opened it. Heavy, expectant, like the house itself was holding its breath. Outside, the night greeted me with a quiet too deep to be natural. No crickets, no wind, no rustling leaves, just an unnatural stillness that felt like it had been carved into the world with a blade. But the glow, the glow, rose from the distant swamp like drifting candles. Dozens, maybe hundreds, moving as if guided by a single hive mind. Every instinct in me screamed to go back inside. I ignored them. The closer I moved toward the pines, the more the glow pulsed. Like it sensed me, like it approved. By the time I reached the old fence, the air buzzed gently, a low vibration brushing my skin. The fence had collapsed in places, but the section I stood before was intact. Years ago, my grandfather had nailed a sign to it. Do not cross as a kid. I thought it was meant to keep out hunters or maybe drunk teenagers. But my grandfather never let me close enough to ask. He'd look toward the swamp with the expression of someone staring down a loaded gun. I stepped over the collapsed boards. That was the moment the whispers grew clearer. Welcome. The voice was everywhere. Above me, around me, beneath my feet. It wasn't one voice either. It was dozens, hundreds, layered atop each other like a choir singing underwater. I should have turned around. But something in me had been waiting years for this. The trees thinned, the ground softened, and then the world widened. The luminous mire stretched before me. An undulating swamp of dark water, pale reeds, and glowing lights that drifted just above the surface. They weren't fireflies. They weren't reflections. They weren't anything I recognized. Each glow pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat. An instinct deeper than fear whispered that these lights were alive. I moved toward the nearest patch of glowing fog, not thinking, not breathing. My eyes locked on the lights the way a starving person stares at food. Then something brushed my hand. I jerked, spinning. A figure stood 3 feet behind me, or rather a silhouette. A girl, young, maybe my age, her body outlined only by the glow of the swamp behind her. The light didn't touch her face. It was as if the mire refused to illuminate her features. "You shouldn't be here," she said. Her voice was steady, not scared, Not angry, more like someone pointing out a simple fact. My throat tightened. Who are you? You heard it, she said. Didn't you? I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words withered in my chest. She stepped closer. Still no face, just shadow. It showed me too, she whispered. What waits for me? What wants me? She tilted her head, and I felt something cold slide down my spine. Did it show you yet? Show me what? Her silence lasted too long. The future you dread. You can replace this text with any text you wish. You can either write in this text box or paste your own text here. Try different languages and voices. Change the speed and the pitch of the voice. You can even tweak the SSML, speech synthesis markup language, to control how the different sections of the text sound. Click on SSML above to give it a try. Enjoy using text-to-speech. Him. A faint glow appeared behind him, not from the floating lights, but from a figure stepping out from between two dead trees. The girl. But she wasn't alone anymore. 3 glowing shapes stood behind her, tall, thin, almost skeletal. Their eyes burned with light. Their faces were stretched too long, too smooth, as if molded from wax. Don't move, Mason whispered, but the girl raised her hand toward me, slow, trembling. The future you dread, she said softly. Then she pointed at Mason. It's coming for him first. The tall, glowing figures leaned forward, their joints cracking like wet wood, their mouths opening wider than any human mouth could. Mason's grip on my arm tightened painfully. Run, he breathed. But what about you? Run. The mire lights flared violently, the whispers rising in a shrill, overlapping chorus. I didn't think. I ran. I plunged deeper into the swamp, branches slapping my arms, mud sucking at my legs. Behind me, I heard Mason shouting, the girl whispering, the tall glowing things shrieking like metal being bent. The mire was alive with movement. Branches shook though no wind blew. Reeds curled toward me. The lights chased overhead like hunting insects. The whispers grew louder, sharper, more frantic. You cannot escape. You were called. You were chosen. See what awaits you. My lungs burned. My clothes soaked in swamp muck. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew that every direction led deeper. Deeper into the mire. Deeper into the glowing dark. Deeper into the future I never wanted to see. I didn't realize I'd stopped running until I felt the mud harden beneath my feet. My lungs heaved like bellows, dragging in air so heavy it felt like syrup. The glow around me dimmed slightly, the whispers thinning, but not disappearing. Never disappearing. I leaned forward, bracing my hands on my knees, trying to steady my breath. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, drowning out everything else until, slowly, the world crept back in. The mire had changed. The ground here was firmer, scattered with twisted roots thick as serpents. The trees bent inward, gnarled branches forming something like an arch above me. Hanging from the branches were strands of moss that glowed faintly, small sparks pulsing inside them like trapped fireflies. The air felt ancient, heavy. Watching, I turned, expecting to see Mason behind me, limping, exhausted, maybe bleeding. But the path I had come from wasn't a path anymore. The swamp had swallowed it completely. Mud, reeds, glowing water. Everything was rearranged, as if the mire was reshaping itself each time I blinked. My skin crawled. Mason, I whispered. No answer. Only the distant echo of something moving, slow, dragging, deliberate. I wasn't alone. I swallowed, trying to quiet the panic clawing up my throat. Walking blindly in the mire was dangerous, but standing still felt worse. So I moved, brushing past glowing moss that flickered gently at my touch. The first time it whispered, I almost screamed. Not that way, came from the moss. I froze. The strand closest to my face brightened, glowing like a breath drawn in. Turn left. I hesitated. What are you? I whispered. The glow dimmed, then brightened again. A warning. Nothing more. Why warn me? For a moment, no answer came. Then, because the others want you to see too soon. My chest tightened. See what? Silence. The moss went dark. A cold ripple of dread slid down my spine. I looked left, the direction it told me to take. The trees there were bent and twisted, the path narrowing into a corridor of roots and pale mud. But something about it felt less hostile. I stepped that way. At first, the ground seemed solid enough. But soon the mud deepened again, sucking at my feet, pulling me down millimeter by millimeter. The air grew colder with each step. Then another sound. Soft. Bit. Footsteps. Not mine. I spun, lifting the flashlight. A figure stepped out from behind a crooked tree. The girl. Her clothes were soaked through, clinging to her thin frame. Her hair hung like a veil, dripping with swamp water. Her face, still hidden in shadow, refused to be fully seen, as if the light bent around it. She walked toward me slowly, each step disturbing the glowing puddles beneath her feet. I told you not to come, she said. You left your locket. Her head tilted, a jerky, too sharp movement. You shouldn't have picked it up. Why? Whose is it? You know. Her voice cracked, and suddenly, she wasn't walking toward me anymore. She was standing inches away, though I hadn't seen her move. Something cold brushed my cheek. You saw the picture, she whispered. You saw what was behind me. The tall silhouette, the impossible shape, that stretched face. I nodded despite the fear locking my muscles. It follows all of us, she murmured. Shows us what we'll become. Become. Not what would happen to us. What we would turn into. What happens if I leave the mire? I whispered. She was silent for a long moment. Then, leaving doesn't save you. Once it shows you, it does not forget. My heartbeat rattled in my chest. What does it want? Her voice thinned to a whisper. For you to look. I took a step back. She took a step forward. And then I saw her face. The shadows peeled back just long enough for me to glimpse what was underneath. Her skin wasn't whole. It was translucent. Veins of glowing blue light traced beneath it like cracks in shattered glass. Her eyes burned like the floating lights. Bright, pale, inhuman. She reached toward me with trembling hands. When I entered the mire, she said, I thought I would see my death, but it doesn't show death. Her fingers stopped an inch from my chest. It shows transformation. My breath hitched. She pressed her palm against my sternum. The cold surged through me instantly. A rush of pressure filled my skull. Thick, suffocating. Like someone tightening a band around my mind. Images flashed in my head. A forest of glowing bodies. Eyes burning through the dark. Tall figures watching from the water. A pale version of myself reflected in black swamp water. Eyes begging, mouth stretched open in a silent scream. Then everything snapped. I stumbled back, gasping as if breaking the surface of a deep pool. The girl's hand dropped. She looked suddenly exhausted, as if touching me drained something from her. You're close, she whispered. It almost showed you. What was that? The beginning, she said. I staggered farther away, shaking violently. I don't want to see it. That doesn't matter. Why me? Why Mason? Why you? She looked past me, toward the darkness shifting between the trees. Because the mire hungers. Cold wind cut through the swamp, stirring the glowing moss and rippling the water. Shapes moved in the shadows, tall shapes, long shapes, too thin shapes. The girl stepped backward into the gloom, her body fading into the blue haze. They're coming, she whispered. For both of us. A splash echoed somewhere behind me. Then another. Heavy. Slow. The tall glowing figures were hunting again. The girl vanished into the dark. And I was alone. Except I wasn't. Something breathed behind me. I turned. And the water at my feet began to glow. The glow spread outward in thin, trembling ripples, lighting up the dark water in a widening circle. At first, it looked beautiful soft blues, subtle greens, like the surface of a dream. But the longer I stared, the more the light felt wrong. Pulsed too slowly, too deliberately, like something beneath the surface was breathing. I stumbled back, but the mud caught my heel, holding me fast as if the ground itself wanted me to stay. The faint hum began again, low, resonant, vibrating in my bones. The same sound I'd felt when I first crossed into the mire. Only now it was stronger, direct, focused on me. The glowing circle stopped expanding. Then it deepened. The light wasn't spreading. It was rising. A shadow surfaced through the glow. Long fingers first, pale and slick. Then a second hand. Both hands planted themselves firmly on the mud, as if something below was pulling itself upward. I couldn't move, couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The figure emerged slowly, its body bending in ways bones shouldn't allow. Its limbs were too thin, too long. The glowing water clung to its skin in patches, dripping like liquid starlight. When it finally lifted its head, I saw its face, or what should have been a face. It was stretched smooth, like flesh pulled taut over bone with no features, no eyes, no mouth. Only the faint shimmering of light beneath the skin, pulsing in broken rhythms. My stomach tightened. I had seen this shape before, in the photograph inside the girl's locket. The figure tilted its head toward me, the skin shifting like something underneath was moving, pressing outward, searching for a shape. A whisper slid directly into my mind. Not through my ears, not through sound, but through thought. You are late. My breath hitched. I stumbled backward, tearing free of the mud. The figure crawled out of the water with jerky, insect-like movements, its limbs bending backward before snapping forward in horrible lurches. Do not run. It wasn't a threat. It was a command, and my legs obeyed anyway, spinning me around, launching me into a desperate sprint. Branches whipped against my arms, roots caught my ankles, reeds clawed at my clothes. The mire wasn't just dark now, it was alive with movement. Lights darted around me in erratic patterns, like they were trying to cut off my path. The whispers swelled again, thousands of voices overlapping until they melted into a single, overwhelming drone that filled my skull. Look, look, look. No! I screamed, though the swamp swallowed my voice instantly. The ground sloped downward sharply, and I nearly slid into a pool of black water. Shallow breathing echoed behind me, wet and ragged. The figure was chasing. I veered left, pushing through a curtain of glowing moss. The strands coiled around my arms, clinging to my skin like hands trying to hold me in place. I ripped free, streaks of faint light smearing across my shirt. My foot struck something solid, wood, plank, a bridge. I didn't question it. I ran onto it blindly. The planks creaked under my weight, old and brittle. The bridge stretched into darkness, crossing a lake of still, glassy water that reflected the eerie light above. Halfway across, the humming stopped abruptly. The silence hit me like a blow. I skidded to a halt. No whispers, no footsteps, no breath at my neck. Even the glowing lights paused in the air, suspended as if frozen in time. Something was wrong. I heard a crack beneath me. The wood splintered, then another crack louder. I lunged forward, sprinting the last few feet, but the moment I did, the bridge gave way behind me. Planks shattered, ropes snapped. Cold water surged upward with a roar as the structure collapsed into the lake. I reached the end just in time, tumbling onto solid earth as the entire bridge broke apart and disappeared beneath the surface. My chest heaved. The glowing water stilled, but the figure did not emerge. Something else did. On the opposite shore, the side I'd come from, I saw movement. The shadows shimmered. The lights bent inward. And slowly, silently, the tall, glowing figures stepped to the water's edge. 3 of them, long limbs, featureless faces, bodies made of faint, trembling light. They didn't chase me. They didn't shout. They simply stood there, watching. Then one lifted its hand. Its long, skeletal fingers spread open. Not escape. A whisper filled the air. Only delay. A second raised its head toward the sky. Path chosen. The third pointed directly at me. You will see. The ground trembled beneath me, subtle but real. I scrambled away, legs shaking. But before I got far, I heard footsteps behind me. Human footsteps. Familiar footsteps. I turned, hard in my throat. Mason! I gasped. He stepped out of the shadows, soaked, panting, bleeding from a deep gash along his arm. His eyes jumped from me to the glowing figures across the water. They can't cross the lake, he said, voice raw. Not that water. Not yet. I didn't know how he knew. I didn't care. What do we do? I whispered. He shook his head slowly. We don't escape, he said. Not until it shows us. I stared at him, horrified. You've seen it already? He swallowed, jaw clenched so tightly I could hear his teeth grind. Yes. What did it show you? He stared at the lake, at the reflection of the three glowing figures. It showed me myself, he said. But not myself. His voice cracked. It showed me the day I stopped being human. Before I could respond, the lake rippled violently, as if something massive stirred beneath the surface. Mason grabbed my wrist. Run, he said again. But this time, he added 4 words that froze my blood. They're waking up now. Mason didn't wait for me to react. His fingers tightened around my wrist, pulling me into a sprint that felt more like a plunge. The forest pressed in on both sides, roots clawing at the ground like skeletal fingers. The air grew colder, denser, almost too thick to breathe. Behind us, the lake churned with a low, rolling growl. Something beneath the surface was rising. Something massive. The glowing figures on the far shore didn't move, but their light sharpened, brightening until they looked like 3 burning silhouettes. Mason kept dragging me forward. They weren't active before, he panted. Not like this. Not all at once. What changed? I gasped. You, he said. No hesitación. No doubt. I stumbled, but he yanked me upright. My lungs screamed for air. My legs felt like wet sandbags. I kept expecting to hear the tall, glowing figures chasing us, but there was only the pulse of the swamp, heavy, rhythmic, alive. The trees parted suddenly, opening into a small clearing tangled with waist-high reeds. Firefly-like lights drifted above the mud, swirling in slow, hypnotic spirals. Mason slowed to a stop, his chest heaving. We can't go any farther tonight, he said. Not until we know what direction it wants you in. I don't want to know, I said, voice shaking. Mason let out a harsh, humorless laugh. Everyone says that at first. I sank onto a dry patch of ground, my hands trembling so badly I had to curl them into fists. Mason, I said slowly, what happened to you? Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you go home? He stared at the glowing lights drifting inches above the mud. I did leave, he whispered. Twice. I froze. What do you mean? The first time I entered the mire, it showed me something. The start of it. Not everything, but enough. His voice trembled. I ran. I made it all the way back to town. I tried to pretend it never happened. His jaw clenched. But every time I slept afterward, I woke up closer to the mire. First the edge of the woods, then the fence. Then, he exhaled shakily. One morning, I woke up standing knee-deep in the swamp, my stomach twisted. It pulls you back, he said, softly, until you finish it. Finish what? The vision. The word hung between us like a curse. Mason sank onto a half-rotted log, elbows on his knees. It doesn't let you go until you've seen the whole thing. And by then, you're already changing, I whispered. He didn't confirm it, but he didn't deny it either. The glowing lights drifted closer, circling us slowly like curious spirits. Mason didn't flinch. He watched them with the hollow calm of someone who had learned to stop fearing something only because he had exhausted every scream he'd ever had. Did it show you the girl too? I asked. He stiffened. You saw her. His voice tightened. Is she still like she was before? I hesitated. She didn't look human anymore. His shoulders sagged. Not surprised. Not shocked. Just hurt. She was the first one, he said quietly. Before me. Before anyone else our age. She vanished a year before I did. Vanished. No body. No answers. Did she try to escape too? I asked. No, Mason shook his head slowly. She came deeper, willingly at first. She thought the visions were messages, warnings. He looked at the ground. But she didn't understand that the future it shows you isn't a destiny to avoid. He lifted his eyes to mine. It's a transformation you can't outrun. The lights around us dimmed suddenly, as if reacting to his words. A cold wind slid through the reeds. Something rustled behind us, soft, deliberate footsteps in the mud. Mason's head snapped up. "No," he whispered. "Not now. Not yet. What is it?" He didn't answer. He stood slowly, pulling me to my feet. "Whatever you do, don't look directly at it." "At what?" The footsteps drew closer, heavy, slow, dragging something wet. The reeds parted. A shape stepped out. It was tall, taller than the glowing figures at the lake. Its limbs bent wrong, joints protruding unnaturally beneath stretched skin. Mud dripped from its fingers. Its face, God, its face wasn't a face at all. It was a reflection, a watery, living reflection of my own. Features blurred, shifting, melting like wax. Mason shoved me backward hard. "Close your eyes." I did. Immediately, heat flared behind my eyelids. Hot, searing, like someone was pressing a brand to my forehead. My legs buckled. The whispers surged all at once, flooding my skull until I couldn't tell where my own thoughts ended and theirs began. See, no," Mason shouted. His voice was distant, swallowed by the rising chorus. "He's not ready. You can't force it." A shriek tore through the clearing, a wet, gargled wail that made my bones vibrate. I dropped to my knees, clutching my head. Another scream. Mason's. "No! Get away from him!" Something slammed into the mud. A thud. A body. The whispers went silent. The heat behind my eyes vanished as suddenly as it had come. I gasped for air, opened my eyes. The clearing was empty. No tall shape. No drifting lights. Only the flattened reeds and the fresh smear of blood soaking into the mud. "Mason," I choked out. No answer. "Mason!" My voice broke. A faint splash sounded in the distance. Something was dragging him away. I stumbled forward, tripping over roots, falling, scrambling back up as panic clawed at my throat. But the swamp ahead was too dark, too deep, too full of shifting shadows and soft, hungry whispers. I took one more step, and the ground beneath me collapsed. Not into water, not into mud, into a tunnel of cold blue light. And I fell. I didn't hit water. I didn't hit ground. I didn't hit anything. I fell through the glowing blue tunnel for what felt like minutes. My body weightless, my limbs suspended in a silent, drifting freefall. The light wasn't steady. It pulsed in slow waves, brightening, dimming, brightening again. With every pulse came a whisper, not loud but sharp enough to slip beneath the skin. Falling isn't the fear. Landing is, landing is, landing is, then impact. Not a crash, not pain, just a sudden stop, as if invisible hands caught me mid-fall and lowered me gently onto something soft. Mud, always mud. I pushed myself up, gasping. The air here was different, thicker, warmer, humming with a strange vibration. The glowing tunnel above me had vanished, replaced by a low canopy of twisted roots. I was underground. The ceiling writhed, not roots, veins, pulsing with the same blue light that filled the entire chamber. My stomach lurched. I staggered to my feet, wiping muck from my eyes. The chamber stretched far beyond my flashlight's reach, but everywhere I turned, pale blue light seeped from the living walls. Something whispered behind me. "Ispun." Nothing, just dripping mud, the distant echo of water. And breathing, slow, heavy breathing. Not mine, not human. "Mason," I called, but my voice was swallowed instantly by the thick air. A rustle answered. Not footsteps, more like something dragging itself. The sound crawled along the walls, the ceiling, the floor, moving around me in slow circles. I backed up until my spine pressed against the pulsing wall. Felt warm, almost feverish. The soft vibration traveled through my bones, making my teeth ache. Something whispered again. Closer this time. Do not be afraid. The voice wasn't the same as the ones from above. This one was deep, resonant, like it came from beneath the earth itself. It echoed through me rather than around me. I'm not afraid. I lied, breath shaking. You are, it said gently, but fear is the door. The one you must open. What door? My voice cracked. Where is Mason? The chamber trembled at his name. The blue light dimmed, then flared brighter, washing the space in cold fire. You seek the other one. Yes, I whispered. Where is he? The breathing stopped. The silence that followed was worse, thick, pressing, alive. Something shifted in the shadows ahead. A mound of mud began to rise slowly, splitting, unfurling like something shedding a cocoon. My flashlight shook in my hand. Long fingers emerged first, pushing free of the muck. Then arms thin, too thin, stretching unnaturally as they pulled a body from the earth. I gagged. It was a person, half covered in glowing sludge, half changed, half Mason. Mason, I whispered. The thing turned its head toward me. One of its eyes was still human, brown, wide, terrified. The other glowed blue, veins of light seeping backward from the pupil. The glow pulsed in frantic beats, like something inside him was struggling to break free. He tried to stand. His legs collapsed under him. He crawled toward me instead. Run, he choked. You shouldn't see me like. A violent spasm jerked him sideways, hurling him against the glowing wall. The wall rippled on impact, absorbing him like soft flesh. Mason screamed, raw, torn, echoing around the chamber. Mason! I sprinted forward, but the ground in front of me split open, a jagged fissure forming in an instant. Blue light poured from the crack like liquid, and the voice returned. He is not yours to save. Get away from him, I shouted into the chamber. You entered the mire knowing its price. I didn't know anything. You felt it, the voice said. You always have. My pulse hammered against my temples. Show yourself. The breathing resumed. Louder now, coming from everywhere at once. I have already shown you what I am.
No, y whisperat.
No, you haven't. The chamber brightened. Not gradually. Violently. The blue veins in the walls flared until the entire underground world was washed in blinding light. I shielded my eyes, backing away blindly. The air vibrated with a pressure that felt like hands gripping my skull. Then the light dimmed, and I saw it. At the far end of the chamber, something rose from the ground. A colossal shape, half fused with the earth, half floating above it. At first, it looked like a tangle of roots, but slowly it formed a structure. A head, arms, a towering body made of mud, bone, and luminous veins. His face was smooth, featureless, except for one detail: 2 empty eye sockets, each filled with a swirling blue glow. I froze. It towered above me. 10 feet, maybe more. Its limbs tapering into long, delicate fingers that dug into the earth as if drawing strength from it. I am the mire, the voice said. It didn't speak with a mouth, because it had no mouth. It spoke through the walls, through the ground, through the glowing fluid inside the chamber. And I show what will be. What do you want from me? I whispered. The figure extended one long, trembling hand toward me. The air thickened. The whispers deepened. Mason's screams faded into a distant, hollow echo. To show you what you fear most. No, I whispered, stepping back, but a second hand rose. Then a third. Then a fourth. All reaching toward me. Grasping. Pulling. See. My vision blurred. The blue glow spiraled. My knees buckled, and the world collapsed into light. I don't remember hitting the ground, only the bloom of pain that burst behind my eyes like a star collapsing. When consciousness seeped back in, it came the way the swamp's glow does, thin, hesitant, then overwhelming. I was lying at the foot of one of the cyclopean trees, its bark shimmering faintly as if coated in 1,000 tiny eyes. The air around me pulsed with a slow, rhythmic breath that wasn't mine. At first, I thought it was the mire whispering again. Then I realized it was the tree. Its trunk expanded, then contracted, once, twice, as if inhaling, exhaling, tasting me. I dragged myself backward, fingers sinking into warm mud. My legs trembled. My skull throbbed like someone had split it with an axe. That's when I saw the footprints. They weren't mine. They were too long, too narrow, too wrong. The tracks were fresh, still filling with a thin ooze. They led deeper into the swamp, toward a cluster of reeds glowing with a feverish blue light. Something had been standing over me, watching, as if waiting for me to wake. I forced myself to my feet, leaning against the tree, which shivered under my touch like an animal flinching. The spirits' voices swelled again, not words this time, but a droning hum that vibrated through my bones. It felt like being dragged toward something unseen. They weren't warning me. They were trying to lure me. "Go back," a whisper said. Not from the spirits, but from behind me.
Ispun.
A woman stood there, half covered in mud up to her ribs, like she had risen from the swamp itself. Her hair was tangled with reeds, her skin pale in the bluish glow. Her eyes, God, those eyes, were clouded over, but they fixed on me as if she saw everything about me at once. "You shouldn't have followed them," she said. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't spoken in years. Who are you?" She blinked slowly. "I was like you once. Not helpful, not comforting." Before I could speak again, she lifted a trembling hand and pointed at the glowing reeds. "They're awake tonight." "What is?" Her jaw tightened as though holding back a scream. "The ones who make the futures. The spirits." "No," she stepped closer, moving awkwardly, her legs dragging through the muck as though they were half fused to the ground. The mud around them clung to her like eager hands. "The spirits are only messengers," she said. "The futures come from them." Her finger shook as she pointed again. "The roots." My stomach tightened. "The roots of what?" She swallowed, and I saw a ripple pass down the side of her neck, like something moving under her skin. "The roots of the mire itself," she whispered. I stared at the reeds, tall, quivering, glowing brighter with every breath the swamp took. They looked alive in a way plants shouldn't be. A branch snapped behind us. The woman froze. My heart crawled into my throat. The footsteps began again, the same narrow, unnatural stride I'd seen in the tracks beside me. Something was moving through the dark. The woman grabbed my wrist. Her hand was impossibly cold, like being held by water. "You must not let it touch you." "Let what touch me?" I asked, voice cracking. She didn't answer. She didn't have time, because the thing stepped into view. At first, it looked like a man. Tall, lanky, swaying as if drunk. But its arms were too long, its spine too bent, its head cocked far too sharply, like its neck was trying to twist fully around. Its skin glistened, pale and wet, pulsing slightly like the tree I had leaned against. It breathed, but not the way humans do. Every inhale made its chest cave in. Every exhale made it swell out. The woman beside me sucked in a sharp breath. "It's one of the taken," she whispered. The creature tilted its head and gave a low, rattling sound. Not a growl. Something like a laugh trying to escape from lungs filled with mud. Its eyes, oh God. Its eyes were glowing the same blue as the reeds. "Don't run," the woman hissed. But my legs didn't listen. I bolted. Branches lashed my arms. Mud sucked at my feet. Spirits wailed overhead. I didn't dare look back. Not until I tripped, sprawling forward into a pool of shimmering black water. I splashed, gasped, pushed myself up. Then I made the mistake of turning around. The taken stood at the edge of the pool. Its mouth hung open, trembling, as if trying to tell me something but incapable of forming words. Blue slime dripped from its lips into the water. For a moment, just a heartbeat, I thought I recognized the shape of its face. Something familiar in the cheekbones, the line of the jaw. Someone I'd once seen in a photograph in a case file. "Don't think about that. Not now." The taken lifted a hand. I saw the woman behind it, still half swallowed by the swamp, shaking her head at me violently, mouthing, "Don't move." But the creature pointed at me, and the water around my legs surged. A dozen ghostly hands erupted from the pool, translucent, glowing blue like the reeds. They clamped onto my arms, my shirt, my throat. No, not now. Not like this. I tried to scream, but the hands dragged me under before the sound could escape. Cold swallowed everything. My vision, my breath, my thoughts. And in the darkness beneath the mire, the future they wanted me to see began to form. Not a vision, not a prophecy, a memory that hadn't happened yet, a memory of my own death. The water swallowed me so completely, so violently, that for a few seconds I forgot the shape of air. Everything around me churned with blue light. The hands, the silt, the roots that writhed like veins beneath the mud. My lungs burned. My mind thrashed. I couldn't tell which way was up, or if up even existed anymore. Then the voices started again. Not whispers this time. Screams. Thousands of them. Overlapping, echoing, dissolving into each other. The voices didn't surround me. They tunneled into me. Every scream felt like it was tearing open a sealed door inside my head, forcing me to remember things I had never lived. I saw myself kneeling in the mud, my back bent at a grotesque angle. I saw my fingers sinking into the glowing mire as if begging it to stop. I saw something standing behind me, tall, shadowed, its face hidden but its hands, reaching for my shoulders. And then my neck snapped. I felt it, the shock of it, the sharp lightning jolt that lanced through my phantom spine. My real body convulsed underwater. My mouth opened in a soundless, drowning howl. Water flooded in. My chest screamed for air. The pain in the vision fused with the pain in my body until I couldn't tell which was mine. Then something tore me upward. The surface hit me like a slap. Air crashed into my lungs, jagged and burning. I coughed, choked, spat out a stream of shimmering black water. The woman dragged me toward a mound of tangled reeds. Or maybe she wasn't dragging me. Maybe the reeds were pulling me in themselves. Everything was shaking, my body, the swamp, the air. "Breathe," she rasped. "Keep breathing. It's not finished with you yet." I tried to sit up. The world tilted. The trees around us pulsed in unison, their roots twisting deeper into the mud. The ground itself felt like a living organ, thudding, contracting, humming with a rhythm that wasn't human. The taken creature stood across the pool, twitching, head jerking in sharp, insect-like movements. Its glowing eyes were fixed on me, unblinking. But it didn't come closer. It didn't have to. I could still feel the hands around my ankles, the phantom grip of the spirits pulling me under even though I was no longer in the water. The future is written. The words weren't spoken aloud. They were simply in my head, carved there, echoing through every nerve. The future is written. "No," the woman whispered. "No, it isn't. Not yet." Her voice trembled, not from fear, but from effort. She placed one muddy hand over my chest. Her palm was freezing, but I felt something warm beneath it. A pulse that wasn't mine. A second heartbeat. Something was moving inside me. My breath caught. What did they do?" I gasped. "They showed you your end," she said. "You're marked now. The mire sees you." Her clouded eyes flicked toward the glowing reeds. "It never lets go once it has a name." A cold line traced down my spine. What name? The future I saw, it hadn't shown a face, but someone had been behind me, close enough to touch me, close enough to kill me. Why did it show me that? I asked, voice shaking. "Because that is the future you fear," she said. "And the mire always speaks in dread." I stared at her, struggling to process anything. "But that wasn't just fear," I said. "I felt it. I felt it happen." Her expression tightened. "The visions of the mire do not lie," she said softly. "They only warn." I swallowed hard. The air tasted metallic. "Warn me about who?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached for my arm, gripping it with sudden urgency. "Listen to me. You cannot stay here. If you remain until the next cycle, the roots will feed on you. You'll become one of the taken just like." She stopped. Her jaw clenched. I followed her gaze. The taken creature had moved soundlessly. It was standing just a few feet from us now, its feet half sunk into the breathing mud. Its head twitched with small, spasmodic jerks. Its lips peeled back, and through its cracked, dirt-caked teeth, it whispered, "Daniel." My heart detonated. That was my name. I looked at the creature, truly looked, and the familiarity I'd sensed earlier snapped into perfect, horrible clarity. The jawline, the scar near the temple, the way he leaned slightly to one side. It wasn't just any face I recognized. It was the face of a man I had failed to save years ago. A man whose disappearance had haunted me long before I stepped foot into the Luminous Mire.
Mithuv hale.
He had vanished during an investigation into a series of swamp-related disappearances. Everyone assumed he was dead. Everyone except me. Now I knew he wasn't dead at all. He had become this. My stomach twisted so violently I thought I'd be sick. "Matthew?" I whispered, barely breathing the name. The creature let out a low, rattling groan. It stepped closer. The woman grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Don't let him touch you. Don't let any of them touch you." Matthew's mouth opened wider, blue light pouring from his throat. He raised one shaking hand, reached toward me. His voice was broken, decayed, like someone speaking through a throat full of water. "Daniel, run!" Then his body convulsed. His back arched. His skull jerked upward as if yanked by invisible strings. For a moment, just a terrible moment, he tried to fight whatever controlled him. Then the blue glow behind his eyes surged, and he lunged. The woman shoved me sideways with both hands as the creature's claws sliced through the space where my throat had been a heartbeat earlier. I stumbled, crashed into the reeds, scrambled backward. The woman cried out, a short, sharp sound, not from pain, from resignation. I saw why. The mud around her ankles was pulling her down. "Fast!"
No.
I shouted, reaching toward her. "Go!" she cried. "Go!" The taken creature turned toward her. She met its glowing eyes without flinching. "Matthew," she whispered. "Forgive me." The creature lunged at her, and the swamp swallowed them both in one violent, sucking roar. Then silence. Horrible silence. Broken only by the dim, hungry pulse of the glowing mire. I stood alone, drenched, shaking, marked by a future that promised only one thing, my death, and something coming for it. For a long time, I don't know how long, I just stood there, staring at the spot where the woman and Matthew had been taken beneath the surface. The swamp smoothed itself over again, flattening into stillness as if nothing had ever happened.
No babbles. No ripples. No trace.
The reeds beside me glowed brighter, as if feeding on the fear leaking off my skin. I tried to breathe slowly, but every inhale felt like swallowing glass. My entire body was shaking, and I couldn't tell if it was from cold, shock, or the echo of Matthew's voice in my head. "Daniel, run." I forced myself to move. My legs responded reluctantly, stiff and trembling. My boots squelched through the mud, each step a struggle against the swamp's slow, greedy pull. I didn't know where I was going, only that I needed distance between me and whatever had pulled them under. The spirits whispered overhead, faint echoes weaving through the branches like strands of icy wind. "It comes. It sees you. It knows your name." I clenched my fists, trying to focus on something tangible. Anything other than those voices. My name. The taken didn't speak normally. They didn't seem capable of it. But Matthew had said my name, which meant the mire had given it to him. Or that something else had. Either way, it meant the swamp had taken an interest in me. And that was worse than any prophecy. The mud grew thicker beneath my feet, rising past my ankles, sucking harder. Every step felt like walking on the tongue of some massive creature tasting me. Then I heard it. A soft, wet slurp. Not from me. I froze. Another slurp. Something was behind me. Very slowly I turned. First I saw nothing. Just roots. Trees. Ripples of blue light drifting between the branches. Then the ground behind me shifted. Not like something stepped on it. Like something beneath it moved. A bulge swelled in the mud, pushing upward, stretching, trembling. I staggered backward, slipping on a root. The bulge grew larger, splitting hairline cracks across its surface. Then, horrifyingly, it opened, not like dirt parting, like a mouth. A wide, circular maw unfurled from the mud, lined with glowing blue teeth made of woven roots. It didn't snap at me. It simply gaped, breathing, exhaling clouds of luminescent vapor that curled around my legs. My skin crawled. The woman had warned me about the roots, about what made the futures. Was this one of them? The maw inhaled sharply, sucking in air, and I felt it yank at my body as though trying to pull me off my feet. I spun and ran. Branches lashed my face. Mud clamped around my legs. Every breath burned. Behind me, the maw exhaled another plume of glowing vapor, and the entire swamp seemed to tilt toward me. The trees leaning, the roots stretching, the spirits circling faster. My heart slammed against my ribs. I didn't dare look back. Not until the ground dipped suddenly and I stumbled into a slope of soft, half-floating moss. I rolled, crashing through a curtain of vines and landing face first in a pool of shallow water. For a moment I just lay there, gasping, listening. Silence.
No slurping. No breathing mood.
No glowing teeth hunting me from behind. Slowly, I lifted my head. This part of the swamp looked different. Quieter. Darker. The bioluminescence here was faint. A dull glow sinking into the water as though the light itself were tired. The air was almost still, except for an occasional ripple spreading across the pool beside me. Then I saw the canoe. It was half-sunken, wedged between two massive roots. Moss-covered, decaying, but unmistakably man-made. And inside it, my breath hitched. Inside lay a bundle of cloth, stiff with mud, shaped unmistakably like a small human body. A child. My stomach twisted violently as I crawled toward it. I reached out, hesitated, then tugged the fabric. Fell apart like wet paper. And inside was nothing. Empty. But the outline had been real, too real. I moved back fast, nearly slipping into the pool. The swamp around me seemed to draw a slow breath. The reeds swayed with no wind, and the surface of the water trembled as though something just beneath it shifted. Then, a voice behind me, small, fragile. "Why did you leave us?" My blood froze. I didn't turn at first. Couldn't. But the voice came again, closer. "Why did you let it take us?" The air behind me chilled, sinking icy fingers down my spine. Finally, forcing my body to obey, I turned. A child stood there, no older than 7, barefoot, dripping mud. Her eyes glowed with the faint blue of the mire, but unlike the taken, her face was still human. Soft, innocent, terrified. I knew her. Not personally, but I had seen her photo. Multiple photos. Missing. Child posters. Case file after case file after case file. Her name was Ellie Markson. Missing for 8 months. I had failed to find her. Ellie. My voice broke. She stared at me, expression unreadable. "You didn't come when we called." "I tried." I whispered. "You didn't come," she repeated. Something moved across the surface of the water behind her. Shadows beneath the glow. "Ellie," I said gently, taking a slow step forward. "You don't have to stay here. I can help." She shook her head. "You can't help us." Her voice softened into something too old for her face. "You're part of it now." "Part of what?" "The cycle." My heart hammered. "What cycle?" She lifted her small hand and pressed her fingers to her chest. A soft pulse of blue light radiated beneath her ribs. "The one that makes us whisper your future," she said. "The one you can't escape." A gust of cold wind tore through the trees, and dozens of small shadows rose from the pool behind her. Shapes, figures, children, all glowing, all whispering, all staring at me. Ellie smiled faintly. A broken, sorrowful smile. "You should never have entered the mire, Daniel." My throat tightened. But nothing, compared to the cold lance that shot through me when she said the final sentence. "Because you weren't invited." The air collapsed inward. Not literally, but that's the only way I can describe it. Every sound in the swamp seemed to fold into itself. The buzzing insects, the whispering spirits, even the faint groans of the shifting trees. Everything went silent the moment Ellie said those words. You weren't invited. A chill slipped across my skin, thin and deliberate, like the brush of a knife's edge. The children behind her stood in rows, some partially submerged, some hovering just above the water, their toes brushing its surface without making ripples. Their faces were blank, hollowed by something older than death. Their eyes glowed, but there was no light in them. Ellie took one soft step closer. We called others, she murmured. We begged them to help us. They came because they heard us. Her head tilted. But no one called you. My mouth tasted like rust. Then why am I here? I whispered. The children exchanged glances, synchronized, unsettling. Ellie shook her head. You followed the wrong voice. A cold shiver shot up my spine. What voice? For the first time, Ellie's expression hardened. The one that pretends to be one of us. A murky wave rolled through the swamp, not through the water itself, but through the air, bending the trees, dimming the lights, making the very geometry of the place seem to twist. Ellie's eyes widened. No, she whispered. It's listening. I swallowed hard. Who's listening? She didn't answer. She turned. Fast. The glow from her eyes flickered violently, as if someone were blowing out candles from inside her skull. A deep, guttural groan rose from beneath the water. The children backed away, retreating in perfect unison. Some sank into the water without disturbing its surface. Others melted into the reeds like shadows dissolving. Ellie lingered a moment longer, long enough for me to see the terror bloom in her young face. It's coming, she breathed. What's coming? Her gaze locked onto mine. The thing that wants your future. The water exploded upward. A geyser of mud and light shot into the air, scattering slick droplets that burned where they touched my skin. I shielded my face, stumbling back as something massive surged beneath the surface. The pool churned violently, glowing a frantic, pulsing blue. The children vanished completely. Ellie's voice echoed faintly, though her figure had dissolved into the reeds. You shouldn't have come alone, Daniel? Then silence, followed by a slow, wet dragging sound. Something rose. First, I thought it was a tree trunk. Thick, gnarled, coated in knots. Then I realized the knots were eyes. Dozens, no hundreds, of small blue eyes embedded in a mass of twisting roots. They blinked individually, independently, in a ripple going up the length of the structure. Kept rising. Higher, higher. Roots merged into sinewy strands of muscle-like tissue, dripping with luminous sap. The enormous structure bobbed in the water, swaying like a cobra preparing to strike. Then it bent, lowering toward me, the eyes focused, all of them, my knees locked, my lungs refused to inflate. The thing leaned closer, the roots unfurling like fingers reaching through water. As it descended, the whispers swarmed my ears, thousands of voices layered into one. We found you. We found you. We found you. My heart pounded so hard the world around me blurred. What are you? I choked out. The eyes blinked again, this time in unison, and the voices merged into a single, deafening answer. We are your END. The root mouth gaped open, revealing a pulsing blue void inside. The air sucked toward it with impossible force. Leaves, mud, branches, all dragged into its throat of twisting roots. Then my feet lifted from the ground. I scrambled, grabbing for anything, roots, reeds, anything, but the pull was too strong. My body slid across the mud toward the open maw. No, no. A hand clamped around my wrist. I jerked around. At first I thought it was Ellie again. But it wasn't. It was a man. Tall, covered in mud, breathless, but unmistakably alive. His grip tightened. Hold on, he shouted over the roar. I stared at him, stunned. He wasn't glowing. He wasn't decayed. He wasn't one of the taken. Who are you? His jaw clenched. No time, move. He yanked me sideways just as the root creature lunged. slamming its mass into the shore with a thunderous crash. Mud splattered into the air. The trees shuddered. The swamp groaned like a massive beast struck with a blade. We tumbled over a ridge of tangled roots and rolled down a slope into deeper brush. The pull stopped. The swamp went eerily still once more. My chest heaved, each breath sharp enough to cut. The man released my arm, glanced over his shoulder to make sure the creature wasn't pursuing us, then wiped mud from his face. His expression was tense, wary, but unmistakably human. "You've made one hell of a mistake coming here," he said quietly. I stared at him, still shaking. "You know this place?" He nodded. Then his next words nearly stopped my heart. "I've been trapped in the mire for 12 years. 12 years. The words stumbled out of me, fragile and disbelieving. He nodded once, wiping more muck from his brow. In the faint ghostlight, I saw the deep lines etched into his face. Too deep for someone who looked no older than his mid-40s. Lines carved not just by age, but by terror, sleeplessness, and something far worse. Survival. He extended his hand again, not to help me up. I was already on my feet, but as an introduction. "Name's Rowan." My heartbeat thudded once, painfully. I knew that name.
رویان Hale.
Matthew Hale's older brother. Matthew, the taken creature who had tried to warn me. My breath faltered. "Matthew, he's... I know." Rowan cut me off. His jaw tightened, a flash of pain flickering behind his eyes. "I saw him a few cycles ago. He didn't recognize me." He swallowed hard. "He won't recognize anyone now." For a moment, the hostility in his face cracked, revealing raw grief beneath. But it sealed over just as quickly, replaced by hardened caution. "How did you get in?" he asked. I shook my head. "I walked in, followed a trail near the northern ridge." "That trail wasn't meant for you." His glare sharpened. "So who guided you? Whose voice did you follow?" I hesitated. Ellie's words echoed in my skull. "You followed the wrong voice." "I thought it was someone needing help," I said. "A child." Rowan exhaled sharply through his nose, and for the first time, anger flickered through him. "Then it was bait." He rubbed a trembling hand down his face. "Damn it, it's evolving." The swamp, the mire itself. Before I could ask what he meant, the ground beneath us pulsed. Once, like a single massive heartbeat. Both of us froze. Rowan grabbed my arm and yanked me into a crouch behind the roots of a fallen tree. His body went rigid, his expression tense. "Don't move," he whispered. The swamp inhaled. Every reed bent inward as if bowing. Every tree creaked. The faint blue glow around us dimmed into a deep, suffocating pulse, the color of drowned lungs. Then footsteps, slow, heavy, dripping, squish, 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 coming from the direction we'd fled. My breathing hitched, but Rowan pressed 2 fingers to my shoulder, a silent command for stillness. The footsteps grew louder, closer, then stopped. I held my breath. Something was standing just beyond the tree roots, just on the other side of our hiding place. I could hear the wet drip of water rolling off it, the raspy inhale of a throat that no longer understood breathing. A soft whimper escaped it. My muscles locked. Rowan's arm tensed beside me. The voice that followed was trembling, broken, and horribly familiar. "Our Rowan." Rowan's eyes snapped open, wide, shocked, disbelieving. Matthew, his brother. But the voice was wrong, warped by the swamp. Half human, half something else. "Our Rowan, help." Rowan's hand twitched. He almost stood, almost broke cover. I grabbed his wrist before I could even think, holding him down. He jerked his head toward me, face blazing with fury, but I shook my head, mouthing silently. It's not him anymore. He knew. He hated it. But he knew. Matthew's voice cracked again, as if wrestling with something inside him. Rowan. The sound twisted, stretching, deepening, until it was no longer Matthew's at all. "Rowan." Rowan flinched. Then, a sickening crack followed, like bones snapping in a bag of wet leaves. The footsteps resumed, slow, dragging, moving away. Squish, squish, squish. When the last echo faded, Rowan slumped against the roots, his breath breaking into ragged gasps. He pressed the heel of his palm to his eyes, shaking. Not crying, he didn't have tears left, just shaking with the weight of a grief too large to fit inside a human chest. I stayed silent. There was nothing to say. After a long moment, he lowered his hand, his eyes red but dry. He wasn't supposed to be here, Rowan rasped. Matthew wasn't supposed to follow me into the mire. He thought I'd been murdered out there. And the swamp, his mouth tightened. The swamp used that. Like it used me. Like it used Ellie. Like it used all of them. He scrubbed a hand over his face. I tried to find him. I tried, God, I tried. But once the mire marks you, you're never the same. Not alive. Not dead. Just taken. He paused. And now it's marked you. A cold wave rolled through my gut. How do you know? Rowan pointed at my chest. I looked down. My shirt was torn open where the woman had pressed her frozen hand to my skin. And beneath the fabric, on the left side of my chest, there was a faint blue glow, pulsing, in rhythm with my heartbeat. No, not with my heartbeat. Above it, a second pulse. Another rhythm. The mire's rhythm. What does that mean? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Rowan stared at me with a grim, hollow certainty. It means, he said slowly, that the swamp is already rewriting you. I stumbled back. Rewriting, changing, becoming one of them.
No, Ibrata.
No, there has to be a way to remove it, to undo it. Rowan didn't speak. He didn't have to. The look in his eyes said everything. No one escapes the mark. No one escapes the mire. I forced myself to breathe slow, controlled. Then tell me what you do know, I said, voice trembling but iron beneath it. Tell me how you've survived this long. Rowan studied me for a long, tense moment. Then his expression shifted, resigned, but resolute. You want to survive? He asked. Yes. Then listen carefully. He leaned in close. There's only one place in the entire mire where the swamp can't reach you. A spark of hope, thin, fragile, fluttered in my chest. Where? I whispered. Rowan's next words were quiet, steady, and devastating. You have to go to the center. I blinked. The center of the swamp? He shook his head slowly.
No.
The center of the mire itself. My mouth went dry. Rowan. What is at the center? He hesitated, then answered with a single dreadful word. The heart. The heart? I repeated, tasting the words. What is it? Rowan's eyes darkened. Everything. The mire begins and ends there. Every root, every spirit, every taken, it all connects to it. If you reach it, you might survive. Or you might become part of it. But if you don't, I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. I had seen what it did to Matthew, to Ellie, to the woman. You die, I whispered instead. Rowan nodded. Or worse, you become a tool for it. For the next one it claims. I swallowed hard. How do we get there? How do I get to the heart? He looked toward the darkness beyond the trees. The swamp seemed to pulse in reply, as if listening. You follow the oldest paths, he said. The ones the mire doesn't like to reveal. They shift, they twist, but if you pay attention to the rhythm, listen to the pulse, you can reach it. I shook my head. I don't understand. You'll understand soon enough, Rowan said. The mire has been watching you since you stepped inside. Every fear, every choice, every heartbeat. It knows you. And now it's marking you. You won't escape unless you face it. All of it. I looked down at the faint blue glow beneath my chest. It pulsed, slow and deliberate, a heartbeat not my own. My skin prickled with unease, and for the first time, I wondered if I was already too far gone. You have to trust me, Rowan said quietly. If you hesitate, it will consume you. I nodded slowly. And Mason? I asked. He's part of this too. Rowan's jaw tightened. Yes, and he's deeper in than I feared. You might see him again, but he won't be the same. A shiver ran down my spine. I thought of Matthew and the grotesque thing he had become. I thought of the children, the taken, the whispers, of Ellie, of the woman, of all the futures I didn't want to see. Rowan's gaze fixed on the pulsing swamp. Time is short, he said. Every second you hesitate, it grows stronger. Every choice you make feeds it. I swallowed, heart hammering. Then, let's go. He nodded and stood, brushing mud from his clothes. The glow of the swamp reflected in his eyes. Hard, resolute, wary. The mire seemed to react. The lights dimmed in the distance, but the blue pulse beneath my chest grew stronger. The whispers swelled, overlapping with a new sound. A deep, resonant hum that vibrated in my bones. I didn't recognize it at first. Then I realized what it was. It was the heartbeat of the mire itself. Rowan extended his hand. I hesitated, then took it. The moment our hands touched, the swamp seemed to lean toward us, to notice us, to acknowledge our defiance. The reeds bent, the roots twitched, the water rippled. The glow around us pulsed like a warning. And then we moved, step by slow, careful step, into the swamp's twisting heart. Every sound, every shimmer, every whisper reminded me of what awaited. But Rowan didn't falter. His grip was steady, guiding me, deeper, deeper into the mire. The air thickened. The pulse beneath my chest throbbed faster, nearly matching my heartbeat. My stomach churned, a mixture of fear and nausea. Every instinct screamed to stop, to turn back, but the mire had already marked me. There was no turning back. We passed pools of glowing black water, their surfaces broken by the faint silhouettes of things that moved just beneath. Shadows drifted through the reeds, watching, waiting. I glimpsed shapes in the darkness, forms I had hoped I'd never see again. Matthew's face in a mask of roots, a child's hand reaching from the water, a pale glow where the taken lingered. All of them reminders of what I could become or what I could lose. The whispers returned, soft now, deliberate, threading around me like cold fingers. See it, face it, become it. I clenched my teeth, forcing my focus on Rowan's steady grip and the path ahead. And then, ahead in the darkness, I saw it. A shaft of light, not natural, not from above. A blue glow that burned brighter than any other, pulsating like the heartbeat of a living thing. The heart, Rowan whispered. It floated above the water, suspended as if the swamp itself had lifted it into being. Roots coiled around it, writhing and twisting, shimmering in an almost hypnotic rhythm. The lights around it seemed to draw the very air toward it, bending the reeds, pulling water in, feeding the glow. A hum resonated in my chest, aligning with the pulse beneath my skin. My vision swam with the intensity. It was beautiful, horrifying, alive. Rowan glanced at me. This is where the mire chooses. I swallowed. The glow beneath my chest flared in response. The whispers swelled. I felt it. The mire was watching, waiting, and it wanted me to step forward. I took a trembling step forward. The glow from the heart pulsed brighter with every movement, and the whispers grew louder, wrapping around my mind, dragging up fears I hadn't even realized I had, faces I'd failed.
Buisas ide ignorat.
The taken, Matthew, Ellie, the woman, Mason, all of them. You are ours. You will see. You cannot escape. I swallowed hard. My chest ached. Every nerve burned. The pulse beneath my skin quickened, merging almost seamlessly with the heartbeat of the mire itself. Rowan's grip tightened on my arm. You have to resist it, he said quietly. Don't let it pull you under. It feeds on your fear, your hesitation. It doesn't just want you dead. It wants you to become it. I looked at him, saw the toll it had taken on him. The hollow eyes, the stiff, careful movements, the way he moved through the swamp like someone walking on broken glass every day for 12 years. And I realized that I had to make a choice. Step forward or fall. I swallowed, closing my eyes for just a moment. Step into the mire or be consumed by it. I opened my eyes and moved forward again. The water around me thickened, roots reaching up like hands trying to stop me. They brushed against my arms, my legs, but I kept walking. Each step was agony. Each pulse beneath my chest screamed. The heart hung above the water, throbbing like a living star, coaxing me closer. I could see shapes swirling inside it. Faces, memories, futures, horrors. Every future I had feared, every death I had imagined, every pain I had run from. They were all there, waiting, laughing, whistling. I wanted to turn away. I wanted to run. But Rowan's hand on mine anchored me. "Step into it," he whispered. "Face it. Own it. Don't let it take you." The glow enveloped me as I stepped forward. My pulse quickened. My chest burned. My vision blurred. And then it spoke. Not with words, but directly inside my head. "You fear me. You fear the future. You fear yourself. But you are stronger than the fear you cling to." I faltered. I am. Yes. The water stilled beneath me. The reeds bowed. The glow dimmed. The heartbeat beneath my chest slowed. No longer frantic, now steady, controlled. The blue light of the heart pulsed in rhythm with my own breath. I realized I was no longer terrified. Not entirely. I could feel Rowan beside me, still holding me, still breathing. I could feel my own heartbeat, my own body. And I could feel the mire watching, yes, but not controlling me. The whispers softened, became almost musical. Faces that had haunted me in the glow of the heart seemed to smile, not threaten. The taken and the lost children became faint silhouettes, distant, separate. No longer part of me, I stepped closer to the heart. Not with fear, but with resolve. The pulse beneath my chest merged fully with the rhythm of the glow. And for the first time, I felt a strange kind of understanding. The mire wasn't evil. Not exactly. It was alive. It was a judge, a mirror, a test. It reflected what you feared most, and it demanded that you face it. Those who faltered became part of. Those who surrendered to despair were lost. But those who faced it, those could survive, could endure, could return. I reached out my hand toward the heart. My pulse aligned fully. I felt its warmth, its power, its mercy. And then I felt Rowan's hand squeeze mine. "Come on," he said. "Let's go." Step by careful step, we moved back from the heart. The glow receded. The reeds relaxed. The water stilled. The swamp exhaled. The taken, the children, Matthew, Ellie, they were gone. Not destroyed. Not gone forever. But dormant, held at bay. We walked through the mire in silence. My chest still ached from the pulse of the heart. But it was mine now. My body, my fear, my choices. The mire had tested me, but I had endured. Rowan finally spoke, voice low, but not bitter. "Few leave the heart and return unchanged. Fewer still leave knowing they can resist the pull. You made it." I nodded, too drained for words. The glow of the swamp faded gradually behind us, and the night returned to normal. A dark, quiet, starless night. The luminous mire had released me, for now. We emerged from the swamp at first light. Mist hung over the land, but the glowing whispers were gone. I breathed in the air, real air, not the heavy pulse of the mire. I looked at Rowan. "Will it come back?" I asked. He shook his head. "It will always be there, watching, waiting. But now you know how to survive, how to resist. That's enough." I looked back at the swamp one last time. Shadows shifted beneath the water. Light flickered in the roots. Whispers hovered faintly on the wind. The mire was still alive, still hungry, but I had faced it. I had survived. And I was still me, for now. The swamp remained behind us, silent except for the soft ripple of water in the morning light. I knew one thing. The luminous mire would never let go entirely. It was patient, immortal, watching for the next soul who would wander too far, too curious, too reckless. But I would remember. I would endure. And I would never forget. The mire had claimed many. It had tested me. But it had not broken me. Not yet.